Let me tell you something right now that most people will never admit. Your life is not shaped by your goals. It's shaped by your standards. Not your hopes, not your dreams, not your intentions, your standards. Standards are the invisible rules that govern your decisions. They are the silent voice inside you that says, this is acceptable and this is not. And if your standards are low, you will always be fighting an uphill battle. You will always be chasing. You will always be settling. But if your standards rise, your life rises with them. Let's slow this down for a moment, because this is where everything begins, whether people realize it or not. Your standards are not a list of rules you follow when you feel like being disciplined. Your standards are the invisible architecture of your life. They are the operating system that runs your decisions, your habits, your relationships, your work, your health, your emotions, and ultimately your destiny. And if your standards are low, you will not rise above the level of your own tolerance. Most people think, I'm going to change my life by changing my circumstances. But circumstances are not what shape you. Circumstances are what reveal you. They reveal who you are under pressure, who you are when you're tired, who you are when you're tempted, who you are when nobody is watching. Your standards are not something you put on like a costume. They are something you become. They are not external, they are internal. They are the quiet voice that says, I will not accept this. I will not allow that. I will not settle for less than I'm capable of. And here's the brutal truth. You don't get to the next level by asking for permission. You don't get to the next level by waiting for the perfect moment. You don't get to the next level by hoping you'll suddenly become someone different. You get to the next level by deciding who you are and then living in a way that matches that decision. Your standards are your identity. That means every time you tolerate something beneath you, you are sending a message to your nervous system, to your brain, to your spirit, that this is who you are. And your brain is obedient. Your brain will align with what you repeatedly accept. It will say, this is normal, this is okay, this is how life is supposed to be. And then it will create a life that matches that level of tolerance. So if you want to change your life, you must first change what you will tolerate. You must raise the bar on what you consider acceptable. And the reason this is so powerful is because it doesn't require a huge change in your circumstances. It requires a huge change in your standards. Because your standards are what drive your behavior when you're not motivated. Your standards are what drive your behavior when you're tired. Your standards are what drive your behavior when you're scared. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you said no to something that was comfortable but not aligned with your future? When was the last time you refused a situation that was convenient but not honorable? When was the last time you refused to settle for less than you deserve? Most people can't answer that because they've been conditioned to tolerate the unacceptable. They've been trained to accept what comes easy. They've been trained to accept what is familiar. And they've been trained to accept what feels safe. But here's what I want you to understand. Safety is not the same as growth. Safety is not the same as success. Safety is the opposite of greatness. Greatness requires risk. Greatness requires discomfort. Greatness requires a standard that is higher than what your current environment offers. Your standards are the first line of defense against mediocrity. If you have low standards, mediocrity will become your lifestyle. If you have high standards, excellence will become your habit. And excellence is not a one-time event. Excellence is not something you do once in a while. Excellence is something you do repeatedly. Excellence is what you do when nobody is watching. Excellence is what you do when it costs you. Excellence is what you do when you don't feel like it. But let's get very real here. Raising your standards is not about being perfect. It's not about being rigid. It's not about being hot with yourself. Raising your standards is about honoring yourself. Raising your standards is about deciding that your life matters. Raising your standards is about refusing to live like a victim of your circumstances. It's about refusing to blame the world for your results. It's about taking responsibility for the quality of your life. And when you decide to take responsibility, something powerful happens. Your energy changes, your posture changes, your confidence changes, your voice changes. Because standards are not just mental. Standards are physical. Standards are emotional. Standards are spiritual. Standards are the way you hold yourself in the world. Think about it this way. If you are a person who tolerates disrespect, you will always attract disrespect. If you are a person who tolerates laziness, you will always attract laziness. If you are a person who tolerates excuses, you will always attract excuses. And the moment you raise your standards, the world will respond. People will test you. People will challenge you. People will push back. But that's not a sign that you're doing something wrong. That's a sign that you're doing something right. Because when you raise your standards, you become a new kind of person. And when you become a new kind of person, your old environment will no longer fit. Your old relationships will no longer fit. Your old habits will no longer fit. And that's why people are afraid to raise their standards. They're afraid of the discomfort of change. They're afraid of the fear of being alone. They're afraid of the unknown. But the truth is, the only thing scarier than change is staying the same. And here's the part that most people don't understand. You don't raise your standards by forcing yourself. You raise your standards by choosing yourself. You raise your standards by making a commitment to the person you are becoming. You raise your standards by deciding that you deserve more. And you raise your standards by living in a WA that proves it. So I want you to ask yourself, what are you tolerating right now that is keeping you stuck? What are you accepting that is beneath you? What are you allowing into your life that is limiting your potential? Because the answer to those questions will reveal your current standards. And once you see your standards, you can change them. And here's the beautiful part. Raising your standards is not a one-time event. It's a daily practice. It's a daily decision. It's a daily reminder that you are not here to play small. You are not here to be average. You are not here to be comfortable. You are here to become the highest version of yourself. And when you start living by that standard, everything changes. Your relationships change, your finances change, your health changes, your career changes, your mindset changes, because your standards become the foundation of everything you do. So I want you to commit to this. You will no longer accept anything that is not aligned with your future. You will no longer settle for comfort over growth. You will no longer tolerate the voice inside you that says, you're not enough. You will no longer allow the world to define your worth. You will become the person who demands excellence from yourself. You will become the person who refuses to settle. You will become the person who knows your value and lives like it, because your standards are not just rules. They are your identity. And once your identity changes, your life changes. Let's talk about something that most people think is just a part of life, but it's actually a choice. You think you're stuck with the way things are because that's what you've always known. You think you're stuck with the people around you because you've been around them for years. You think you're stuck with the habits you've built because that's just how you are. But that's not truth. That's comfort disguised as reality. And if you want to raise your standards, you have to understand something fundamental. The moment you decide what you will no longer tolerate, you change the entire game. Now listen carefully. Raising the bar on your non-negotiables is not about being rigid or unkind. It's not about becoming cold or unforgiving. It's about becoming clear. It's about being honest with yourself about what you deserve, because the truth is your life is shaped by your boundaries, and boundaries are not there to keep people out. Boundaries are there to keep you in alignment with who you are becoming. When you don't have non-negotiables, you become a person who is easily swayed. You become a person who is influenced by other people's opinions. You become a person who is controlled by circumstances. You become a person who lives by default, not by design. And the problem with that is not just that you're living a life that's less than you're capable of. The problem is that you're training your brain to accept less. So what are non-negotiables? They are the things you will not compromise on no matter what. They are the standards that you refuse to lower, even when it's convenient, even when it's comfortable, even when it's easier to go along with the crowd. Non-negotiables are the values that you live by when nobody is watching. They are the rules that you live by when you are under pressure. They are the lines in the sand that say this far and no further. And here's the thing. Your non-negotiables are not something you announce to the world. You don't need to post them on social media. You don't need to tell everyone, because non-negotiables are not about impressing others. They're about honoring yourself. They're about living in a way that makes you proud of the person you're becoming. Now, let me ask you something. When you look at your life right now, what are the things you've been tolerating? What are the things you've been allowing because you don't want to be seen as difficult? What are the things you've been accepting because you don't want to be alone? What are the things you've been settling for because you don't think you deserve better? The moment you become aware of those things, you have the power to change them. Because awareness is the first step, and the next step is decision. You decide what you will not tolerate anymore. You decide what is no longer acceptable. You decide what kind of life you will live. And let me tell you, this is not easy. It's not easy because it requires courage. It requires strength. It requires discipline. It requires the willingness to feel the discomfort of growth. But if you want to raise your standards, you must be willing to feel that discomfort, because discomfort is the cost of transformation. And transformation is what you want. Not comfort, not safety, not ease, transformation. So here's what you do. You make a list of your non-negotiables. And I'm not talking about superficial things. I'm talking about the deep stuff, the things that matter, the things that define your character, the things that will shape your future, the things that will determine whether you become the person you're meant to be. Maybe one of your non-negotiables is respect. You refuse to be treated like an option. You refuse to be spoken to in a way that diminishes you. You refuse to be manipulated or controlled. You refuse to be taken for granted because you know your worth. You know that you deserve to be treated with dignity, and you will not accept anything less. Maybe one of your non-negotiables is integrity. You refuse to compromise your values for short-term gain. You refuse to lie, cheat, or deceive. You refuse to cut corners. You refuse to take the easy way out because you know that your character is more important than your comfort. And you know that your reputation is built by the choices you make when nobody is watching. Maybe one of your non-negotiables is discipline. You refuse to let your emotions control your decisions. You refuse to allow your mood to determine your actions. You refuse to give in to procrastination. You refuse to let laziness dictate your future because you know that discipline is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. Maybe one of your non-negotiables is growth. You refuse to stay in a state of stagnation. You refuse to remain comfortable in mediocrity. You refuse to settle for a life that is less than your potential because you know that growth is not optional. Growth is essential. Growth is the only way you become more than you are. Now, I want to be very clear about something. Non-negotiables are not about being perfect. They are not about being harsh. They're about being real. They're about being honest with yourself. They are about setting a standard that matches your potential because when you set non-negotiables, you are not just creating rules. You are creating a life. And when you create a life with non-negotiables, you will begin to notice something powerful. People will respect you more. People will take you more seriously. People will treat you differently, not because you demanded it, but because you became a person who commands it, because your standards are reflected in your actions, because you are no longer willing to accept anything less than what you deserve. And here's the part that most people miss. The world will test your non-negotiables. The world will challenge you. The world will push back. The world will tempt you to compromise. And you will have moments where you will want to lower your standards because it's easier, it's safer, it's more comfortable. But that's when your character is being forged. That's when your standards are being strengthened. So when you feel that pressure, when you feel that temptation, when you feel that urge to settle, I want you to remember something. You are not a product of your circumstance. You are a product of your decisions. And the decision you make in that moment will determine the direction of your life. You must decide that your standards are not negotiable. You must decide that you will not compromise your future for temporary comfort. You must decide that you will not sacrifice your integrity for approval. You must decide that you will not settle for less than you deserve. Because when you raise the bar on your non-negotiables, you are raising the bar on your life. You are raising the bar on your relationships. You are raising the bar on your success. You are raising the bar on your future. And you are telling the world, and more importantly yourself, that you are worth it. So now, I want you to make a promise, not to anyone else, but to yourself. A promise that you will no longer tolerate what is beneath you. A promise that you will no longer compromise your standards for convenience. A promise that you will no longer settle for less than your potential. A promise that you will become the person who lives by your highest values. Because when you do that, you don't just raise your standards, you raise your life. Let's get real about this next point, because it's the difference between people who talk about change and people who actually create it. Most people think the problem is motivation. They think the problem is inspiration. They think the problem is that they just don't feel like doing it. So they wait. They wait for the mood, they wait for the moment, they wait for the energy, they wait for the sign from the universe, and while they wait, their life stays the same. Because the truth is, motivation is a luxury. Motivation is a feeling, and feelings are unpredictable. They come and go like the weather. Some days you wake up feeling unstoppable, and other days you wake up feeling like you can't even get out of bed. And if your life depends on how you feel, then your life will always be fragile. But here's what separates the winner. RS from the rest. Winners don't live based on feelings. Winners live based on commitments. Because a commitment is not a feeling. A commitment is a decision. A commitment is a promise. A commitment is something you do even when you don't feel like it. And that's why commitments are powerful. Because commitments don't care about your mood. Commitments don't care about your excuses. Commitments don't care about your comfort. Commitments don't care about your fear. Commitments only care about one thing that you follow through. And follow through is the currency of success. Follow through is what turns dreams into reality. Because dreams without follow through are just fantasies. Dreams without action are just stories you tell yourself to feel better. But commitments create momentum. Commitments create discipline. Commitments create a life that is consistent and unstoppable. So what does it mean to replace excuses with commitments? It means you stop negotiating with yourself. It means why? Stop giving yourself permission to quit. It means you stop allowing your mind to talk you out of what you said you wanted. It means you stop letting temporary discomfort control your future. Because the moment you make a commitment, you become a different person. You become someone who is reliable. You become someone who is trustworthy. You become someone who has integrity. And integrity is not something you talk about. Integrity is something you live. Now, I want you to hear this. Making a commitment is not the same as setting a goal. Goals are important, but goals are external. Goals are about what you want to achieve. Commitments are internal. Commitments are about who you are becoming. Goals are the destination. Commitments are the vehicle. And if the vehicle is weak, you will never reach the destination, no matter how clear the destination is. Think about it. How many times have you said, I'm going to get in shape, or I'm going to start my business, or I'm going to be redisciplined, and then you didn't? And why didn't you? Because you didn't make a commitment. You made a statement. You made a wish. You made a hope. And hope is not a strategy. Hope is not a plan. Hope is not a commitment. A commitment is when you say, I'm doing this no matter what. And here's the thing. Commitments require sacrifice. They require a price. They require a cost. And most people are not willing to pay the price. They want the reward without the work. They want the results without the discipline. They want the transformation without the struggle. But that's not how life works. That's not how growth works. That's not how greatness works. If you want to raise your standards, you must become someone who is willing to pay the price. You must become someone who is willing to do what others won't do. You must become someone who is willing to be uncomfortable in the short term for the sake of long-term success. Because the moment you commit, you are making a decision to pursue your future above your present. And that is the essence of maturity. That is the essence of power. That is the essence of strength. Now, let's talk about the language of commitment. The language of commitment is not I'll try. The language of commitment is not I'll see. The language of commitment is not maybe. The language of commitment is I will. I will do it. I will show up. I will follow through. I will be consistent. I will not quit. I will not allow excuses to control my life. And when you speak like that, your body listens, your mind listens, your spirit listens, because your language is shaping your identity. And your identity is what determines your standards. When you speak like a committed person, you start acting like a committed person. And when you act like a committed person, your life starts reflecting it. You start showing up on time, you start taking responsibility, you start making better choices, you start refusing to settle, you start refusing to compromise. You start becoming someone who is unstoppable. But let's be honest, commitment is not always easy. There will be days when you feel tired. There will be days when you feel overwhelmed. There will be days when you feel like you've given everything and you have nothing left. There will be days when you feel like you want to give up. And that is exactly when your commitment matters the most. Because commitment is not tested when things are easy. Commitment is tested when things are hard. Commitment is tested when you don't feel like it. Commitment is tested when your emotions are trying to sabotage you. So when you feel that urge to quit, I want you to remember something. You are not building a life based on feelings. You are building a life based on commitment. You are building a life based on who you are becoming. And the person you are becoming is someone who doesn't give up. The person you are becoming is someone who keeps going even when it's tough. The person you are becoming is someone who knows that the pain of discipline is temporary, but the pain of regret lasts forever. And here's the beautiful thing about commitment. Once you commit, you start to see yourself differently. You start to see your potential. You start to see your power. You start to see your ability to create your life. And that changes everything. Because when you commit, you are not just changing your behavior, you are changing your identity. You are becoming the kind of person who does what they say they will do. So I want you to make a decision right now, not a wish, not a hope, not a maybe, a decision, a commitment, a promise to yourself that you will no longer let excuses control your life, a promise to yourself that you will show up even when you don't feel like it, a promise to yourself that you will follow through no matter what, a promise to yourself that you will become the person who keeps their word. Because when you replace excuses with commitments, you raise your standards. You raise your life, and you become unstoppable. Now listen, because this next point is one of the most powerful and most overlooked keys to raising your standards. If you want to become a person with higher standards, you have to understand that you cannot do it alone, not in the way most people think, not by isolating yourself and trying to willpower your way through life. You have to upgrade your environment and your associations, because the truth is this. Your environment shapes your identity, and your associations shape your expectations. Let me say that again because it's important. Your environment shapes your identity. Your associations shape your expectations. You become the average of the people you spend the most time with. That's not a motivational quote. That's biology. That's psychology. That's the way the human mind works. You are a social creature. You are wired to adapt. You are wired to mirror. You are wired to conform. And if the people around you are living a certain way, your brain will accept that as normal. It will accept that as what? Possible. It will accept that as what you deserve. So if you want higher standards, you must upgrade the people you surround yourself with. You must upgrade the places you spend your time. You must upgrade the content you consume, because your environment is constantly influencing your decisions, your beliefs, and your behavior. And if you are not careful, your environment will pull you down without you even realizing it. Now, I'm not saying you have to abandon everyone in your life. I'm not saying you have to cut off your family or your friends. But I am saying that you have to become intentional about who you spend your time with and how you spend your time. Because if you want to raise your standards, you must be around people who have standards. You must be around people who are committed to growth. You must be around people who push you to become better. You must be around people who challenge you, not people who enable you. Because there's a difference between support and comfort. Support is when someone pushes you to become better. Comfort is when someone makes it easy for you to stay the same. And if you want to raise your standards, you cannot confuse comfort with love. Because love is not about making things easy. Love is about helping you become the best version of yourself. So let's talk about associations. Associations are not just the people you hang out with. Associations are the people you listen to. Associations are the people you follow. Associations are the people you admire. Associations are the people whose opinions matter to you. Associations are the people whose values you absorb. And if your associations are not aligned with your standards, you will never reach the level of success you're capable of. Now, I want to ask you a question. Who are the 5 people you spend the most time with? Are they people who are ambitious? Are they people who are disciplined? Are they people who are building? Are they people who are growing? Or are they people who complain? Are they people who excuse? Are they people who are stuck? Because the truth is, you don't just become like the people around you. You become like the people around you in the ways that you admire and absorb. You will pick up their habits. You will pick up their mindset. You will pick up their standards. You will pick up their language. You will pick up their level of belief. And before you know it, your life will look like theirs. So if you want to raise your standards, you must choose your associations carefully. And it's not just people. It's also your environment, the places you spend your time, the physical space you live in, the energy of your home, the cleanliness of your space, the order of your life, because your environment sends signals to your brain about what you believe you deserve. If your space is cluttered, your mind becomes cluttered. If your space is chaotic, your mind becomes chaotic. If your space is disorganized, your life becomes disorganized. And if your space is low quality, your standards will follow. So if you want higher standards, you must upgrade your environment. You must create a space that supports the person you are becoming. You must create a space that reflects your vision. You must create a space that makes you feel powerful, not powerless. You must create a space that inspires you to show up as your best self. And then there's the content you consume, because your mind is like a sponge. It absorbs whatever you feed it. If you feed your mind with negativity, fear, and drama, your standards will drop. If you feed your mind with excuses, your standards will drop. If you feed your mind with laziness, your standards will drop. But if you feed your mind with knowledge, with growth, with inspiration, with wisdom, your standards will rise. So I want you to be intentional about what you allow into your mind, because the content you consume is shaping your beliefs. Your beliefs shape your actions shape your results, and your results shape your life. So if you want to raise your standards, you must be intentional about what you feed your mind. Now, let's be clear, upgrading your environment associations is not about being perfect. It's not about being judgmental. It's not about becoming arrogant. It's about becoming intentional. It's about deciding that you will no longer allow low-quality energy into your life. It's about deciding that you will no longer be influenced by people who are not committed to growth. It's about deciding that you will no longer tolerate environments that keep you stuck. Because if you want to raise your standards, you must raise the level of the people around you. You must raise the level of the places you spend your time. You must raise the level of the content you consume. And you must raise the level of the energy you allow into your life. And when you do that, something powerful happens. You begin to see yourself differently. You begin to believe differently. You begin to act differently, because your environment is no longer pulling you down. Your environment is pushing you forward. Your environment is supporting your growth. Your environment is reflecting your standards. So I want you to ask yourself right now, what in your environment is holding you back? What in your associations is keeping you small? What in your daily life is not aligned with the person you're becoming? Because once you identify it, you can change it. You can upgrade it. You can raise the level of your life. And when you raise the level of your life, you raise your standards, you raise your identity, you raise your future. You become a person who demands excellence, not just from the world, but from yourself. And that is the path to greatness. Because the people you surround yourself with and the environment you live in will either lift you up or drag you down. And the choice is yours. Now let's talk about something that people don't want to admit, because it's uncomfortable and it's raw, and it hits at the heart of why most people stay stuck. You can have all the knowledge in the world, you can have all the strategies, you can have all the motivation, but if you don't master your emotions and your responses, your standard DS will always collapse the moment life gets real. Because here's the truth. Life will always test you. Life will always push you. Life will always challenge you. Life will always bring pressure. And pressure reveals who you are. Pressure reveals your true standards. Pressure reveals your character. Pressure reveals what you really believe about yourself. Because when you're calm and everything is going smoothly, you can act like a high standard person. But the moment something goes wrong, the moment you feel stress, the moment you feel fear, the moment you feel disappointment, the moment you feel anger, that's when your real standards come out. And most people don't realize this, but your standards are not the goals you set. Your standards are the decisions you make in the moment of stress. Your standards are the choices you make when you are tired. Your standards are the actions you take when you're afraid. Your standards are the behavior you show when you're triggered. Because the truth is, your standards are not something you talk about. Your standards are something you live. So if you want to raise your standards, you must master your emotions and your responses. You must become the kind of person who can stay calm under pressure. You must become the kind of person who can respond instead of react. You must become the kind of person who doesn't let emotions dictate your decisions, because emotions are powerful. Emotions are real. Emotions are not wrong. But emotions are not facts. Emotions are not instructions. Emotions are data. And you must learn how to interpret that data without letting it control you. Now, let me ask you something. How often do you make decisions when you're angry? How often do you make decisions when you're scared? How often do you make decisions when you're overwhelmed? And how often do you regret those decisions later? Because the moment you let emotion take control, you're no longer operating from your standards. You're operating your impulses. You're operating from your survival brain. And your survival brain is not designed to create a life of excellence. Your survival brain is designed to keep you safe. And safe is not the same as great. So you have to learn how to manage your emotions, not suppress them, not ignore them, not deny them, but manage them, because emotions are like the weather. You can't stop the weather, but you can prepare for it. You can choose how you respond to it. You can choose whether you let it ruin your day or you let it strengthen you. And the key to mastering your emotions is understanding that you have a choice. You have a choice in how you interpret what happens to you. You have a choice in how you respond to what happens to you. You have a choice in how you speak to yourself. You have a choice in how you show up. Because the moment you realize that you have a choice, you become powerful. Because most people live like they have no choice. Most people live like life is happening. G to them. Most people live like victims of their circumstances. But the truth is, you are not a victim. You are a creator. You are a decision maker. You are the architect of your life. So let's talk about responses. Responses are the actions you take after you feel something. Responses are the choices you make after you're triggered. Responses are the behavior you exhibit after you experience stress. And responses are what define your standards. Because you can have the best intention in the world, but if your response is weak, your standards are weak. And if your response is strong, your standards are strong. Now, I want you to hear this clearly. Mastering your emotions and responses does not mean you will never feel anger. It does not mean you will never feel fear. It does not mean you will never feel disappointment. It does not mean you will never feel sadness. You will feel all of it. You're human. But mastering your emotions means you don't let those emotions control your actio. You don't let those emotions dictate your future. You don't let those emotions steal your power. And here's what most people don't understand. Your emotions are not your enemy. Your emotions are your compass. Your emotions are telling you what matters to you. Your emotions are telling you where your values are. Your emotions are telling you what you care about. And when you feel anger, it's not a sign that you're weak. It's a sign that something matters to you. When you feel fear, it's not a sign that you're broken. It's a sign that you're about to grow. When you feel disappointment, it's not a sign that you failed. It's a sign that you had expectations and that you're capable of wanting more. So don't be ashamed of your emotions. Embrace them, understand them, learn from them. But don't let them control you, because your standards are not defined by your emotions. Your standards are defined by your responses. And this is why the people who succeed in life are not always the MOS. T-talented. They are not always the smartest. They are not always the luckiest. They are the people who can handle pressure. They're the people who can stay calm when the storm hits. They're the people who can respond with clarity when others react with chaos. They are the people who can control their state. They are the people who can choose their response. So how do you do that? How do you master your emotions and responses? You do it by building awareness. You do it by practicing self-control. You do it by training your mind. You do it by creating a new story for yourself. You do it by choosing to respond in a way that aligns with your standards, not your fears. You do it by choosing to act like the person you want to become, even before you feel like it. And here's the thing. When you master your emotions and responses, you raise your standards automatically, because your standards are not just about what you do when you're motivated. Your standards are about what you do when why? Or challenged. Your standards are about what you do when you're triggered. Your standards are about what you do when you're under pressure. And if you can control your response, you can control your destiny. So I want you to make a decision right now. Decide that you will not let your emotions control your life. Decide that you will respond with strength, not react with weakness. Decide that you will stay calm under pressure. Decide that you will be the person who is unshakable. Decide that you will be the person who chooses excellence even when it's hard. Decide that you will be the person who lives by high standards, not by temporary feelings. Because when you master your emotions and your responses, you become unstoppable. Let me tell you something that most people don't want to hear, because it cuts straight to the heart of responsibility. If you want to raise your standards, the most important person you can invest in is not your business, not your relationships, not your social status. The most important person you can invest in is you, because the highest standard you can ever set is self-respect. And self-respect is not something you get from other people. Self-respect is something you earn through the way you treat yourself, through the way you show up for yourself, through the way you invest in yourself daily. Most people think investing in themselves means buying something. It means getting a new gadget. It means buying a new suit. It means going on a vacation. And those things can be nice, but that's not what I'm talking about. Investing in yourself means you are willing to do the hard work. Investing in yourself means you are willing to prioritize your growth over your comfort. Investing in yourself means you are willing to become the person who can handle the life you want. You see, the moment you stop investing in yourself, your standards start to drop, because you are telling your mind, your body, your spirit, and your future that you are not worth the effort. And once you believe that, your life will reflect it. Your relationships will reflect it. Your work will reflect it. Your health will reflect it. Everything will reflect the standard you've set for yourself. So what does investing in yourself look like? It looks like consistent action. It looks like discipline. It looks like learning. It looks like growth. It looks like self-care. It looks like respect. It looks like honoring your body, your mind, and your spirit. Because you cannot build a life of high standards if you are not strong enough to live it. Investing in yourself is about building your capacity. It's about becoming the person who can handle more. It's about becoming the person who can stay committed when things get hard. It's about becoming the person who can endure. It's about becoming the person who can take responsibility. Because if you want more in life, you must become more. And the only way to become more is to invest in yourself daily. Now let E ask you something. How much time do you spend on yourself each day? How much time do you spend developing your skills? How much time do you spend learning? How much time do you spend improving your health? How much time do you spend building your emotional strength? Because the people who have high standards don't leave their growth to chance. They don't hope they will become better. They intentionally create the conditions for growth. You must become a student of life. You must become a student of success. You must become a student of yourself. Because the more you learn, the more you grow. And the more you grow, the higher your standards become. Because you realize you are capable of more than you thought. You realize your potential is bigger than your current reality. You realize your future is not limited by your past. And that realization changes everything. And investing in yourself is not just about learning. It's also about taking care of your body, because your body is the vehicle that carries you through life. And if you don't take care of your body, your standards will suffer. You will have less energy. You will have less focus. You will have less clarity. You will have less strength. And when you have less strength, you will settle for less. You will tolerate more. You will compromise. You will give up easier, because your body is not capable of holding the standard you want to live. So you must invest in your health. You must invest in your nutrition. You must invest in your movement. You must invest in your sleep. You must invest in your mental clarity, because your body is not separate from your standards. Your body is the foundation of your standards. If your body is weak, your standards will be weak. If your body is strong, your standards will be strong. And investing in yourself also means investing in your emotional and mental strength, because your mind is the battlefield where your standards are either strengthened or destroyed. Your mind is where you decide what you will tolerate. Your mind is where you decide what you will accept. Your mind is where you decide what you believe about yourself. And if you don't invest in your mind, you will be at the mercy of your thoughts. You will be at the mercy of your fears. You will be at the mercy of your doubts. So you must invest in your mental strength. You must invest in your emotional resilience. You must invest in your mindset. You must invest in your inner world, because the world outside is a reflection of the world inside. And if you want to raise your standards, you must start inside. And here's the thing, investing in yourself is not a one-time event. It's a daily practice. It's a daily decision. It's a daily commitment. It's a daily investment. You don't invest in yourself for a week and then stop. You invest in yourself for life, because the person you are becoming is not built in a weekend. The person you are becoming is built day by day, choice by choice, habit by habit. And when you invest in yourself daily, something powerful happens. You begin to respect yourself more. You begin to value yourself more. You begin to see yourself as someone worth investing in. And when you see yourself that way, you will no longer tolerate what is beneath you. You will no longer settle for less. You will no longer compromise your standards, because self-respect is the highest standard you can set. When you respect yourself, you will not allow others to treat you poorly. When you respect yourself, you will not allow yourself to be lazy. When you respect yourself, you will not allow yourself to give up. When you respect yourself, you will not allow your life to be small. So I want you to make a decision right now. Decide that you will invest in yourself daily. Decide that you will prioritize your growth over your comfort. Decide that you will become the person who can handle the life you want. Decide that you will become the person who respects themselves enough to do what it takes. Because when you invest in yourself daily, you raise your standards, you raise your life, and you become unstoppable. Let me close this out with something that is simple, but it's not easy. Most people want a shortcut. Most people want the big breakthrough. Most people want the moment where everything suddenly changes. But the truth is, life doesn't work that way. Life doesn't reward intensity. Life doesn't reward bursts of effort. Life rewards consistency. Life rewards discipline. Life rewards the person who shows up day after day, even when they don't feel like it. Because your standards are not built in a moment. Your standards are built in the small moments. They are built in the daily decisions. They are built in the habits you repeat when nobody is watching. So if you want to raise your standards, you must measure progress in Celebra. D, discipline. You must stop waiting for motivation to show up. You must stop waiting for the perfect conditions. You must stop waiting for the right mood, because if you wait for that, you will be waiting forever. You must create your own momentum. You must create your own drive. You must create your own standards. And the only way to do that is through consistent action. Now, let me be clear about something. Measuring progress is not the same as obsessing over results. Measuring progress is not the same as comparing yourself to others. Measuring progress is about tracking your growth. Measuring progress is about seeing how far you've come. Measuring progress is about being honest with yourself about what you're doing and what you're not doing. Because if you don't measure your progress, you will never know if you're improving. You will never know if you're growing. You will never know if you're moving forward. And if you don't know that, you will lose your momentum. You will lose your focus. You will lose your standards. So you must measure progress. You must track your habits. You must track your performance. You must track your results. You must track your mindset. Because when you measure progress, you become aware. And awareness is the first step to change. You cannot improve what you do not measure. You cannot change what you do not track. And you cannot grow what you do not monitor. Now, let's talk about celebrating discipline, because most people celebrate results. They celebrate the end. They celebrate the finish line. They celebrate the moment when they get what they want. But the truth is, the real celebration should be for the discipline that got you there. The real celebration should be for the person who showed up even when they didn't feel like it. The real celebration should be for the person who kept going even when it was hard. The real celebration should be for the person who refused to quit. Discipline is the bridge between goals and results. Discipline is what turns dreams into reality. Discipline is what makes you unstoppable. And discipline is not something you have. Discipline is something you build. Discipline is something you strengthen. Discipline is something you practice. And the more you practice discipline, the stronger it becomes. And the stronger it becomes, the higher your standards become. Now, I want you to hear this clearly. Consistency is not about perfection. Consistency is not about never failing. Consistency is about continuing. Consistency is about showing up again and again, even after you fall. Consistency is about getting back up when you mess up. Consistency is about learning from your mistakes and moving forward. Consistency is about refusing to let one bad day turn into a bad week, a bad month, or a bad year, because most people let their standards slip the moment they fail. They let one mistake become an excuse to quit. They let one setback become a reason to give up. But the person with H standards knows that failure is not a reason to quit. Failure is data. Failure is feedback. Failure is a lesson. Failure is a stepping stone. And the person with high standards uses failure to get stronger. So when you measure progress and celebrate discipline, you are not just tracking your results, you are strengthening your identity, you are strengthening your standards. Because the person who is consistent is the person who believes in themselves. The person who is consistent is the person who has self-respect. The person who is consistent is the person who is committed to their future. And here's the thing, the world will not reward you for your potential. The world will not reward you for your intentions. The world will not reward you for your dreams. The world rewards you for your actions. The world rewards you for your consistency. The world rewards you for your discipline. The world rewards you for your ability to show up when others quit. So I want you to make a decision right now. Decide that you will measure your progress. Decide that you will track your growth. Decide that you will celebrate your discipline. Decide that you will show up even when you don't feel like it. Decide that you will be consistent. Decide that you will keep going. Decide that you will raise your standards through the daily practice of excellence. Because when you measure progress and celebrate discipline, you raise your standards and your life becomes unstoppable.